Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mind Muscle Connection podcast. Today is a Q&A episode, and I have three questions I want to dive into. But first, before I go into that, just want to go over my free resource. So if you enjoy my content, or maybe this is the first time you are listening to this, again, welcome. But I have my free body recomp checklist. Again, if you want more information on that, the link to that is in the show notes. And again, I go over the 10 things you need for body recomp, the most important things, what body recomp is, different types of body recomp. So again, if you're interested in that, the link to that is in the show notes. And again, it's completely free. So with that out of the way, let's dive into today's question. So I have three questions, all great ones. I'm going to take a little bit of a supplement approach here for the final two. But the first question for today is going to be, if I'm in maintenance and I'm hitting 20 to 25,000 steps a day, which is a lot, is cardio still needed? With your 20 to 25,000 steps per day, this would be something that this is me just giving advice without being asked. I'm going to get into that exact question, but I would say with 20 to 25,000 steps, unless that's your lifestyle, like you have a job or whatever it is, like you just naturally get those steps. And again, maybe you have a high active lifestyle, but then you go on a walk or two for the mental health benefits you get outside, whatever it may be. But if you're purposely trying to get 20 to 25,000 steps a day, I think you could be, and I'll tie all this in, but I think we can be a little bit more. I don't think we need to go that high. I think you're going to see, again, I could see where the thought process is, hey, if I get up to 20, 25,000 steps, I'm just going to continue to expend more energy and I can have a higher calorie intake and maintain my weight. And again, I do think there is something to that. And I do think that we can push for a high energy flux lifestyle, right? Where we move a lot, we expend a lot of energy, therefore we can bring in more food in and still maintain weight. Or again, if you're trying to gain weight, then you have to do more. Or if you're in a fat loss phase, again, you can eat a little bit more and still drop weight potentially. But I do think there comes this point to where we get past this certain point and it's an inverted U, right? Where it's like you're going to get less and less out of more and more, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to tie all this in together because I do think at the end here, if we're moving this much, we could probably be a little bit more efficient with it potentially there. But again, just realize that there probably is a point of diminishing returns here. And I would say at 20 to 25,000, you're probably past that. I think that the point of diminishing returns is probably going to be somewhere between 10 to 15K. And so you're looking at this person is potentially moving 10 to 15 more thousand steps than they do. And that's not a short amount of time. That's a big chunk of time, especially if you're just walking with this. So that's kind of my first thoughts on that. But you're in maintenance, you're hitting 20 to 25,000 steps. Is cardio still needed? So this is where we need to differentiate here. Okay, what are we trying to do? 20, 25,000 steps. If it's just walking, again, that's going to be great. You are going to increase your energy expenditure. Like I said, there's probably a point of diminishing returns. And then even from a health benefit standpoint, I think there's going to be a point of diminishing returns going this high. So with steps, that's what we're doing, right? The goal of overall movement is going to be, we're going to increase our energy expenditure. It's not fatiguing, meaning you can do a lot of it and there's not a huge recovery cost to it. But again, at some point, even if we do low intensity volume type stuff, there is going to be a recovery cost at some point. And again, are you bumping into that? Maybe. It just depends on the person and how they recover and what everything else looks like. So that's movement. For some people, initially, if they're super out of shape and overweight and haven't done anything, walking is going to be something that could be a cardiovascular stimulus for them. But for people that have been doing this for years, 20 to 25,000 steps is not going to provide a cardiovascular, if you want to continue to improve that. And then, so that's movement, right? And again, I think we all need to do that. I think it's super important that we have movement outside of the gym. So I'm a huge proponent of that. Again, I just think that we're crossing that threshold of a little bit too much. And then we have cardio on the other side. Again, what's the difference here? Cardio is going to be, to me, cardio is conditioning, whatever you want to call it. It's dedicated training our main goal is to try to improve your cardiovascular fitness. Okay. Again, people have different definitions of what it is. To me, that's what cardio is. It's going to be just like with resistance training. We need to provide a stimulus that is going to cause our body to adapt further. If we're not doing that, it's not going to do that. So same thing with cardio. We need to provide a stimulus that is going to continually be harder and it's going to stress the system to where it needs to adapt. And again, if we're just walking all the time, you would need to continue, obviously, to get more and more steps to do that. But again, still at some point, you're probably not getting into those like higher intensity type stuff that I think you need to do. And unfortunately, the higher the intensity is of training, the less we can do because there is a recovery cost to that. So again, that's to me the difference of cardio versus movement. And in a full kind of routine, again, I like to have weight training. I like to have dedicated cardio training, and then I like to have movement outside of the gym. I think we need all three if we really want to maximize health and our body composition. So in saying that, if you want to continue, answer the actual question here, if you want to continue to improve your cardiovascular fitness, then I do think you need to include some training that's going to get your heart rate up for a certain amount of time. It should be included in this if you're if this is all you're doing, but ideally we would replace some of those steps with that. Okay. And again, assuming all 20 to 25,000 is from walking and you're not doing that already. Okay. So again, if we want to continue to improve our cardiovascular fitness, we need to include some cardio. And I think most people can benefit from that. Now, if we're looking at an overall health standpoint and a body comp standpoint, adding in cardio, I don't think is necessarily going to have a drastic effect. I feel like you're getting most of what you need by just moving a ton and staying super active. Okay. If we're looking at long-term health, I don't think like adding in more cardio is going to be this thing that's going to make this drastic difference if we're looking at like longevity. Okay. Again, improving your cardiovascular fitness, I do think can help improve longevity, but it comes down to the time that you want to spend doing that and how much is it going to actually add from what you're already doing. Okay. But again, if you want to improve your cardiovascular fitness and that's something that you want to strive for, hey, I want to be better at a mile run, I want to be better, I want to be able to have a higher output for longer periods of time, again, then I think there could be some benefit of doing that. And then again, even improving your cardiovascular fitness could help improve recovery. But are you missing out on this massive amount because you're not doing that? Probably not. And then same thing from a body comp standpoint. I think improving your cardiovascular fitness will have some downstream impacts on your body composition, but directly, you don't need to add in any more cardio than what you're already doing. You can make the body comp changes that you want, and you're moving enough that from an overall health perspective, you have that baseline down. So really it just comes down to, hey, do I want to dedicate more time to that and do that? So in saying that, in a perfect world, I'm replacing some of those steps with dedicated cardiovascular training. So I would much rather see you get 10-ish thousand steps, 10 to 15, closer to 15 if you want to push it. And then we're adding in at least 1 to 2 days of cardiovascular type training. So for you, that could be, hey, one day we're going to get our heart rate super high for short periods of time, more high intensity style cardio. And then one day we're going to do, maybe for you, if you're getting 15,000 steps, then maybe for you, it's more of a medium intensity style cardio. Again, some people say that's not necessarily needed. Again, for you, it would be something that we get our heart rate up for a short amount, either for a medium or long amount of time. So again, the longer you go, the lower the intensity needs to be. So it's like you just need to be a little bit more intense with your training than just walking. Okay. And the benefit of this is we could be a little bit more time efficient as well if we incorporate some of this stuff, right? You'll still get that energy expenditure, but we can be a little bit more time efficient if we do that and we don't feel like we need to do that much. So long story short, getting 25,000 steps is going to be enough from an overall health standpoint. Like you have a good baseline of overall health. If you want to continue to maximize that and reap some of the benefits of having a better cardiovascular system fitness, then you probably want to do that. Again, body comp standpoint as well too, you have a good baseline, but if you want to continue to take it to the next level, I think improve it including some of this could be helpful, but you don't have to from a body comp standpoint. We can totally get away with 25,000 steps, but again, we can also be more efficient. So that's kind of my thought on this. And like I said, when we're looking at a well-rounded program, we have weight training, we have dedicated cardiovascular training, and then we are doing movement outside of the gym that we enjoy to where we're staying active throughout the day. We're not just sedentary there. So hopefully that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions on that. All right. So next is pros and cons of creatine for health and wellness. I love this. Creatine is commonly brought up. So again, I'm going to keep just talking about it because it's just something that I feel like people still are not fully bought in on yet, which knowing the research behind it, I'm just like, that is freaking crazy. So let's just talk about from a health and wellness standpoint. So obviously we have the muscle strength and muscle support, right? So it's going to help you train harder and potentially recover faster as well too. So that's going to be helpful from a muscle building standpoint, right? If you think about it, you're probably going to be able to get an extra rep or two by taking creatine. Again, in the short term, is that going to make a huge difference? No, but over time, that's going to add up. And so again, we want to try to stack as many cards or decks in our favor as we can. And so again, that would be something there where over time you're gonna be able to build more muscle because you're doing that. So we know that's when people talk about creatine, that's where all these benefits stem from, was strength and performance and building muscle. Again, you go back to the 80s, 90s, it was like, oh, that's a steroid. That's a terrible thing to take. It's going to, whatever, all the things people used to think about. Again, not true on there. So that's really where it got introduced and where people really started studying it. Now, the cool thing is, as people started studying it more, and there's a ton of research behind creatine, it's pretty crazy. It allowed for them to start researching other aspects of who made the benefits of creatine. Another benefit of it's going to be, it's a pro of it's going to be brain health and cognitive performance. Creatine supports ATP production in the brain. So this may improve memory, mental fatigue, and cognitive resilience under stress or sleep deprivation, right? It can be especially helpful in older adults or during mentally demanding phases. So again, I just recently had our first child. That would be a time, sleep deprivation, that can help offset some of the negative aspects of that. Now, we don't want to rely on getting poor sleep and just, oh, hey, I take creatine, so I'm good. Again, you don't want to do that long term, but in the short term, it can be helpful there. So we have this cognitive performance and brain health aspect of it. There is some thought that maybe you need to take a little bit more for those benefits. I still think your standard dosage is going to be better than nothing on that. So again, whatever that looks like, again, I think the kind of recommended dosage is around 5 milligrams. Shoot, now I'm going to get myself caught up here. I think it's grams, 5 grams, 5 to 10 grams. The bigger you are, the closer you want to push towards that 10ish grams there. And again, if you really want to make sure you get those kind of brain benefits, maybe you go closer to the heavier dosage on that. But I'll talk about some cons of it, and you'll need to take that into consideration. It may support blood sugar regulation and glucose tolerance. Now, again, is that because of the muscle building aspect of it? Who knows there? It also has neuroprotective benefits potentially as well, too. So again, this all comes back to the brain. Emerging research around creatine can be helpful in depression, neurodegeneration, and even post-concussion recovery. Just came across a study recently where from a depressive standpoint, they looked at this and this was something that was effective in terms of improving depression. Again, that's freaking awesome, right? And it's safe, studied, and it's cheap, right? There's been a ton of research on it. It's safe. They have the research to back that. And again, like I said, it's well studied and it's one of the cheaper supplements out there. For that reason, it's going to help your muscle and it's going to help your brain. These are both super important as we age there. And not everyone's going to be like a super responder to creatine, but again, to me, based on all these pros, and again, I'm going to go over some cons here. The con list is very limited. It just doesn't hurt to still take it, right? If you think about it with all the things I said, it's well studied, safe, cheap, and it has all these potential benefits. You should take it. Now, people who are going to be at a higher risk, who I think should take it, are going to be older adults, women, people who don't eat a lot of meat are going to benefit from it because it is found in meat. But again, you still need a good amount of meat to make up for it. So we want to make sure that we just supplement with it as a safety net. So those would be the biggest people that I would recommend this to. But again, everyone else who wants to have those benefits. So again, anyone who lifts and listens to this, you should take it as well too. And if you care about your brain health, which you should probably take it as well too. So this is like becoming a supplement that, it's funny, went from a steroid to now probably a health supplement that everybody should take. So cons: water retention and scale weight increases. It is cellular water. It's not fat. So again, it's just going to make your muscles look fuller. Okay. Now, this is a thing that can happen. And Dan Garner, if you don't follow him on Instagram, you should. He posts a ton of studies. I think it's awesome. He posted what may be the issue here as to why some people do see that. So stop blaming creatine. He titled this post, "Stop Blaming Creatine for the Puffy Look," right? Again, he talks about the benefits of it, but the truth is creatine doesn't cause that puffy, smoother look on its own. In fact, creatine pulls water inside your cells, promoting cellular hydration, increased nutrient delivery, and enhanced cognition and muscular performance. That's intracellular water retention, and it's a very good thing. Now, what he talks about, the real issue, the sodium to potassium intake in your daily food choices. It's not creatine making you puffy, it's poor electrolyte management. So again, if we don't have that balance of potassium with sodium, that can be an issue, right? So again, without balance, you're getting the double hitter. Creatine equals water in the good, imbalanced sodium equals water under the skin. He put in quotation, or the Michelin Man, too much of both, and it has this effect on water retention and weight gain. You're fuller and puffier because of your electrolyte status, yet creatine is going to be the thing that gets the blame. So want to fix it? Assess your diet to identify moderate high sodium foods, increase potassium, things like avocados, leafy greens, sweet potatoes to promote sodium excretion, and drink plenty of water to maintain fluid balance. Approximately 97 Americans don't meet the recommended daily intake for potassium. This is the real reason people bloat on creatine. Creatine draws water into your cells, and without enough potassium to offset high sodium levels, your body holds on to water under your skin. So again, that can happen, but it's more so of the things that we're doing, and it's not, we don't want to blame creatine for that. So if you want to limit that potential side effects, there you go. And that's honestly the most common thing that you'll see. Next, mild GI stress in some people, especially if you take too much at once. So again, you want to try to split it up, and you don't need to load it either. Okay. So that's the other thing here, because we don't necessarily want to load it. So again, it's misunderstood by general population, right? It's one of the most effective and misunderstood supplements out there. When to recommend it, I already gave you some potential people that would benefit from it. But again, if you're training consistently, looking to preserve or build muscle, and or want a low-cost health and performance edge, creatine is going to be a no-brainer for you. So we want to make sure that we add that into our routine. And this is a supplement that I'll recommend to everybody, just because, again, the research around how it's going to benefit everyone. And again, there's all the pros of it and then the cons, and then the one con that there is, we talked about how we can potentially limit that. One thing I will see too is, oh, my creatine levels are high, I need to stop taking creatine. Again, when you pay attention to when you get your blood work done, if you just train the day before or the day of, like your creatinine levels are going to be pretty high. So look at that and don't blame it on the creatine there. All right. So last question is, when are EAAs beneficial? So first, what are EAAs? So they're essential amino acids. There's 9 of them that your body cannot make on its own. Okay. They're key drivers of muscle protein synthesis, which is going to help you recover and help you build the tissues and things that your body needs protein for. So muscle, skin, hair, nails, all that good stuff. EAAs are the actual components your body needs from protein to build muscle. Okay. They're the raw materials that do the work. So once your body breaks down protein, it breaks it down to other kind of substrates and materials. And the EAAs are the ones that are going to be the things that, like we said, drive muscle protein synthesis there. So basically they're broken down. Who doesn't need them? If you're eating enough total protein, especially from animal-based or complete sources, EAAs become a little unnecessary at that point. Again, I'll talk about some specific cases where they may still need to be used, potentially, even if you do this. When we think generally, if you eat a lot of animal sources of protein and complete sources and you get enough protein in general, your need for EAAs go down. So again, if you're eating 3 to 4 high protein meals per day, you're in your 30s and 40s or younger, you likely don't need them as much as someone who, again, I'm going to go over what that looks like. Who might benefit? Vegans or vegetarians who struggle to get high quality protein, just because, again, many plant sources are lower in like leucine. Again, we can make up for that by probably increasing our overall total protein intake and getting a good mix of proteins. As we know, vegan, protein, plant-based diet, you can totally build muscle on just as effective. We just have to look out for those things. But again, these wouldn't hurt, especially if, again, I talk about some of these things below where they may become a little bit more useful. So again, you train fasted or you have long gaps between meals. EAAs could help stimulate muscle protein synthesis without having full meals. So if you know that you have a period of time where you can't, for whatever reason, or you train fasted, again, this is where your need for it starts to come back up a little bit. Okay. Older adults. So again, if we're older, again, they need a little bit more protein in general, and at least based on what the RDA is for protein. And again, getting in those EAAs could be super helpful for them. So again, if you're older, say 50 or above, again, this could be beneficial. And then you combine it with all these other things I'm going to talk about. That's where somebody of this age would be at a higher need of these. And then dieters on very low calorie or protein restricted diets, just because, so if you're on very low calorie diet, the benefit of EAAs is they're going to be minimal calories and you get those EAAs, right? So again, that's where that could be beneficial if you're trying to save some calories. Now, this doesn't mean that you should not eat any calories and just have EAAs. That's not what we want. But again, if you have to save some calories there. So again, EAAs there, or who they're going to be most useful for. You have like long training sessions where you're not able to get in any protein during that time, and or you weren't able to get protein in around your workouts. Fasted cardio or fasted training in general, you could benefit from taking that during your workout, especially the longer it is. And if you fall into all these things that we've already talked about. And then again, situations where like a full meal isn't possible for whatever reason there. So again, they're just a tool. They're not necessary if protein intake is dialed in. But again, if you're older, you're on a low calorie diet, you don't eat a lot of protein in general, and then you do those things that I just talked about, your need for EAAs could go up there. I personally don't really ever prescribe them to anybody or recommend them to anyone. But again, I had a client recently who just talked about she's in a fat loss diet. She's going to maybe do protein before her workout. And I just explained, because she's been doing them fasted, when we talked about meal timing, hey, if you go into your workouts fasted, you want to get some protein in as soon as possible after. But because she's in a fat loss diet and now she wants to have protein beforehand, the issue with that is now she's going to have to grab those calories elsewhere throughout the day. And those are going to have to go before her workout. So it could make her fuller throughout the day, or now she has less calories to work with and she needs to make up for that. So again, we could potentially utilize EAAs in that specific example. Again, it just really depends on what's going on there from that perspective. So that's how I would go about that there with EAAs. But again, for the most part, probably not going to be a supplement I'll recommend. But again, there are some situations where it can be useful from that perspective. That's it for this episode. If you found this podcast be helpful in any way, if you could leave a rating and review, that will help more people find it. Again, if you like this type of stuff, you're into body comp, you want to improve your body comp, my free body recomp checklist is for you. Again, the link to that is in the show notes. If you haven't yet, give me a follow on Instagram, Jeff, HOEHN_. That's where I'm most active on social media. And then lastly, if you have questions around this, or you need figure out a game plan for you moving forward, you just feel like you're lost, you're struggling, not really sure where to go, my free 30-minute strategy calls for you, and we can map out a game plan, make sure you're headed in the right direction there. The link to that is in the show notes as well. That's it for this episode. Chat with you next time.